You would not believe your eyes if intern dropped part 3 of every world champion's worst race that year, 1980s edition. It's been half a year or even over half a year since episode 2. And I'm terribly sorry for taking so long to drop this episode, but you know, the day has finally come. This one was actually quite difficult, because let me say this much. The champions of 1980, of the 80s, serious drivers, man. Serious drivers. It wasn't easy at all. But I digress, yes? Let's do this. 1980, the world champion was By the way, I'm on my veranda right now, so you're going to probably hear nature in the background. You might hear a truck or two, but I'll do my best to edit them out. 1980, Alan Jones won the world championship for Williams. It was Williams' first ever driver's championship in any capacity. His worst race of the year was Zandvoort. Wasn't even really his fault. He had side skirt damage. Alan Jones cooked all of 1980. It's kind of funny he only won one world championship because he was damn good in 1980. But yeah, there isn't really much to talk about. He cooked in almost every race. This was the worst thing I could find. 1981. Nelson Piquet. Nelson Piquet won the world championship. His worst race of 1981 was Monaco. He couldn't handle the Alan Jones style. Piquet, I believe, was on pole and he was leading the race. Alan Jones was hunting him down, putting pressure on him. And bro just couldn't handle it, man. Bro went right into the wall, crashed out from the lead of the Monaco Grand Prix. Granted, he still went on to win the championship, but that's quite embarrassing. I think we can all agree crashing out from the lead in Monaco. Very embarrassing. And little did either of them know at the time, but none of them were even going to win the race because Gilles Villeneuve ended up passing Jones late. And Gilles Villeneuve ended up winning the race. I think Jones may have had car problems late, but yeah. Piquet crashed out on Monaco from the lead, so that's his worst race. 1982, Keke Rosberg won the world championship. His worst race was Monza. It's between Monza or France. I think I'm going to give it to Monza. He had a rear wing failure. He came 8th. That was his lowest on-track finish of the year. And he still won the championship despite boycotting Imola because of his Brazil DQ. I also bring up France because he was quite mid. He qualified 10th and he finished 5th. But the problem is his teammate was even worse. So I'm like, maybe it was just Williams not being good that weekend. What's funny about 82 is that Keke won the championship by 5 points over Pironi, even though Pironi missed like the last 5 races of 82. So there's a lot of universes where multiple people actually win the 82 championship. But he did it, man, so he moved. 1983, Nelson Piquet won the championship again, and his worst race was Spa. Again, he cooked in almost every race, so it's hard to find a proper one. So I chose his lowest finish, which was this race, even though it was marred because he lost a gear and he had no power on the straights, so there's nothing he could do. 1985, Alain Prost wins the first of his 4 world championships. His worst race that year was Brands Hatch. He honked. He completely honked. He went off on lap 1, dropped to 14th, and he drove back to 5th, which is all he needed to clinch the championship. But it was a rare off day for Prost. There isn't even really that much to talk about. It's just he messed it up at the start, and it was embarrassing. I don't think he qualified that well either, but yeah. Anyways, in 1986, Prost went back-to-back. Yes. He went back-to-back, won the championship for McLaren again. This time, his worst race of the season was Detroit. He qualified P7, 2.4 seconds off pole. And he came 3rd. It was the middest race I could find. I tried. It was his middest performance of the year. So yeah. That's Prost in 86. 1987, Nelson Piquet scores the 3rd championship of his career, the final championship of his career. And his worst race was Jerez. He qualified on pole. He dropped to P4 at the end, while his teammate Nigel Mansell cooked. As a matter of fact, Piquet even went off track at one point. He was just driving kind of slimy, not really world championship-esque, if you ask me. That was his off day for 1987. It's the worst one I could find. Piquet was quite consistent in 87. He may not have had the raw pace to win races the way Mansell did, but he always finished in a good spot. So that's why I put Jerez here. 1988, Ayrton Senna scored his first ever Formula One World Championship. His worst race of 88, though, was Monaco. And it's funny because had he not binned it, Monaco would have probably been his best race of 1988. He won pole by an ungodly gap over Prost, dominating the race, and bins it from the lead. And to this day, we still don't know why, but it's hard to believe it wasn't his fault. Look at them birds, man. Oh my gosh. It's hard to believe it wasn't his fault. You know, all the evidence I've seen, there's a video, I believe, either Formula One or McLaren themselves put out about the crash and all the things that could have caused it. But I can't see a world where the crash wasn't his fault personally. He binned it, he was pushing too hard for no reason, and he threw away a silver platter victory. So because of that, I've put Monaco as his worst race. And finally, rounding out the 80s is Prost, who won the championship in 1989. I've given Hungary as his worst race of the year. He finished behind Thierry Bouton in this race on pure pace, which is insane to me given that it's 1989, you know? Like, the McLaren was still top dog in 89. It may not have been as good as 88, but it was still a demon. Yeah, Mansell was winning a couple races and stuff, but like, there's no reason he should have gotten bodied the way he got bodied in this race. It was absolutely insane. He was nowhere all day. And he lost to Thierry Bouton in a Williams on pure pace. I was thinking about putting Mexico on the list as well, but after really going back to Mexico, there's no real way you could ever put that down on him. Like, the team fumbled his strategy, and they are solely to blame for him finishing that low. So yeah, folks, that's every world champion's worst race that year, 1980s edition. I'm Intern, you've been real, and now I'm signing out. Stay tuned for the 90s.